things in the media gifts: engraved lockets, bunches of flowers, and thoughtful chocolate selections. We didn't have any kind of cake box or cake tin for transportation down to London, so I put the sponge in a small red suitcase I had recently bought from a jumble sale, and then went to bed. The production and transportation of the lemon cream sponge, done in order to secure a job at the Observer, had taken maybe 7 hours in total. This was 6 hours and 58 minutes more than I had spent thinking about the actual job. Indeed, to be more specific, it was 6 hours and 58 minutes more than I had ever considered what I would ever actually write. So here I am the next day in London, getting off the coach at Victoria Station wearing a gigantic hat to make me look thinner and carrying a lemon sponge in a suitcase. If I carry the suitcase by the handle, the cake will tip on the side, so I'm carrying it flat, like a tray, in both hands. The time is 11:15 a.m. I am due at the Observer offices in Battersea at 12:30 p.m. Just enough time to go to the British Museum and Buckingham Palace, I think, having looked at the tiny map of London I have in my pocket. I am keen that this journey to London will mix business with pleasure, perhaps to create a new thing, plisness. I set off, carrying my suitcase out in front of me like a crown on a pillow. 3 hours later, and I finally turn up at the Observer offices. I am trying very, very hard not to cry. All the skin has been flayed off my heels. It turns out that wearing white pixie boots and no socks is a poor idea if you're going to walk for 3 hours. I am soaked in sweat, utterly mortified, and newly enlightened as to the scale of capital cities. When I woke that morning, I had no idea things were so far apart in London. In Wolverhampton, if you had a reasonable jogging pace, you could touch every single remarkable building in the town in under 10 minutes. Fuck it, to be honest, if you sat next to the man-on-the-horse statue in Queen Square with a tennis ball, you could bounce it off every institute of note without moving, even McDonald's. London, on the other hand, seems to have an endless amount of wide, grey, straight roads which stretch on forever, and never ever have the British Museum or Buckingham Palace, or, anxiously, from 12:17 p.m. onwards, the Observer offices at the end of them. I have been lost in a park and round the back of Trafalgar Square. At one point I tried to hail a taxi, but was holding the cake suitcase in both hands at the time, and so looked like someone doing an impression of the wise old monkey in The Lion King when he holds up the newly born Simba for veneration instead. The taxi just drove past. The kindly folk at the Observer have, understandably, been very worried. A 15-year-old girl has been missing in London for 3 hours and then turns up weeping and limping. They sit me down in a conference room and prepare to ask me if I've been sexually assaulted. I really wanted to see the British Museum's collection of cuneiform tablets, I say, trying to satirise the idea of someone being so nerdy that they keep the deputy editor of the Observer waiting for a job interview. Unfortunately, they think I'm being totally truthful and try to make me feel better by talking about their favourite exhibits, a conversation I can't join in on as, obviously, I never made it to the British Museum in the end. The only museum I've ever actually been into is the one at Bantock House in Wolverhampton, where they have a castle made of foil sweet wrappers. It's a very good castle. It's shiny. I tell them about the castle, and they agree that it sounds very special. But still, extraordinarily, after all of this, when I've drunk 3 glasses of water and quickly dashed a tear from my eye under the guise of adjusting my hat, and had everyone very kindly say, London really is easy to get lost in, 100 times, there comes a moment where the deputy editor says, "So, now we've finally got you here, ha 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 ha, would you like to work for us?" Unfortunately, at the time, I'm going through a phase of not wanting to say the right thing or the nice thing, but the legendary thing instead. I imagine whole days' worth of conversations in my head and then analyse them afterwards from the vantage point of others on their legendariness potential. In the being offered a job to write 3 columns in a national newspaper scenario, which I've run through 300 times in my head, I finally decided that the legendary response, spoken of in awe for years to come, and then she said, it was brilliant, is the one I bring out now. Work for you? Oh, I'd love to. I'd really, really love to. I pause.